Would you like to be somebody who knows how Instagram is essentially a Pareto distribution platform? Then listen to this entire video where I explain how the compound effect enables a few accounts on Instagram to accumulate the vast majority of followers, whilst the enormous remaining significant portion of accounts have essentially close to no followers in comparison. So before we get into this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, dating, Jungian psychology, and how to reduce suffering in life. Let's get into it. So a Pareto distribution is essentially a method or a phenomenon in which a certain resource is distributed very, let's say, unequally amongst people. For example, people who write books, authors. There will be a very few number of authors who sell the most books, and there will be the vast significant portion of authors who sell close to no books. So a few books are written and they are sold the most, and then there's a huge number of books which are sold essentially close to nothing. And then there are, for example, asset managers. There's a few asset managers who manage the vast majority of assets in the world, and there's a huge tail of asset managers who manage close to none. So what is happening is there's like 20% of people, of asset managers, manage 80% of the world's assets, and then there's 80% of asset managers who only manage 20% of the world's assets. So it's a very unequal distribution. And the same thing goes for Instagrammers. There's a few Instagrammers, well, comparatively a few, who have the vast majority of followers or are followed by a lot of people, and then there's essentially everybody else who has close to no followers in comparison. And this is super interesting because this tendency for a Pareto distribution is first of all present, I think, in all human-made products, and it's also mentioned in the Bible. There's a quote from the Bible from Matthew, and it's called the Matthew effect, and it goes along the lines of, this is a quote: "For to the one who has, more will be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away." That's a heavy quote. That's a really heavy quote. So what's being said is people who have will be getting more, and people who have nothing will be taken away from. So basically the people who have will benefit, which I'll talk about in a second, from a compound effect. I mean, I think this is what it's implying. There's this tendency for, if you have something already, it's easier for you to get more and you will have more and more. But if you have close to none, then nothing will come to you. You'll have nothing, essentially. Now, what I want to explain is that I believe a cause of Instagram's danger to its users is this Pareto distribution, because it is a reason why you only tend to see the most good-looking people with the coolest cars, the biggest houses, and the seemingly coolest lives, etc. All the Instagrammers who don't portray that are relegated in the popularity ranking. And this is actually super interesting because I think Instagram is comparable to a survival story, just like humanity. Instagram is a platform upon which people succeed a lot, and most people, or not most people, but a lot of people fall into the shadows, just like in real life. Like the 1% of the 1% wealthiest individuals in the world, I think, have or possess, I think, the same amount of wealth as like the bottom, I don't know if it's like 2 billion, something like that. I'm not quite sure, so don't rely on what I just said, but it's some absurd comparison like that. But the problem is, the criteria needed to survive and succeed on Instagram are distorted criteria. And I think people can easily think, well, if I need to do this and this and this to gain popularity on the platform, I guess I need to be doing the same things in real life maybe. Like the barrier between this platform and real life is very vague, and it's a gray zone for people. But that is not the case. Like the criteria are not the same. For Instagram, you get rewarded if you post absurd content that is dissociated from the truth or from reality, like crazy stunts or consistent content that portrays a life of perfection. But I do think Like, that's not real life. That is not real life, period. But I do think psychologically humans are still attracted and drawn to the truth. Like, it's an unconscious, it governs people unconsciously. So if you do post honest content, perhaps you can also gain popularity, but unfortunately I do think on average you will not gain the same extent of popularity than if you would post extreme content, I would say. Now, in my script here, in my sort of outlay, I made an asterisk and said I should give a quick rant on how toxic Instagram is. So I had deleted Instagram for about 1.5 years, and it's excellent. And then I went back onto it. I reactivated my account a few days ago, and oh my word, this also goes for TikTok. It's horrific because you immerse yourself in this world of perfection, and then when you turn your phone off, you're back into reality, and you can actually begin to hate or dislike, like have an antipathy towards your own life, like where you live, the people who are around you, because they're not as awesome, they're not as full of excitement and continuous adventure as the content you see on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And that's just, I mean, thankfully I moderate my use of Instagram, and I want to deactivate it ASAP again. But people who don't understand that and who don't have the discipline to control it, or at least don't even realize how it's affecting them, it's actually kind of tragic, honestly. It's sad. It is sad. Anyway, let's continue. So there is a filtering system on Instagram that rates the survival capabilities or the success capabilities of users. It would be something like the quality of their pictures, how attractive they are, how authentic their content is, and how well they are connected to other famous Instagrammers. And depending on how well the Instagram user fulfills these boxes, they attract more engagement, or if they don't, they stagnate in their likes, comments, and follow count. Then whoever succeeds in this criteria attracts more followers, and then the compound effect begins, which is a mechanism that causes the Pareto distribution. Once you have a lot of followers, it's significantly easier for you to attract more followers than somebody who has very few followers to suddenly gain a lot more. This is because, this is how the compound effect works on Instagram. A person or an account with a large follower count has access to many people who are each in their own network. So when you multiply the size of a network by the number of followers, so the number of followers by the size of each of the followers' network, you get an enormous number. For example, if you have 1,000 followers, each of them might be following, let's just hypothetically say also 1,000 people. Then you have 1,000 people times each 1,000 people, 1,000 people in their own network. And of course, these people will have overlapping networks, but let's hypothetically say they are distinct networks, each separately. You have an enormous range, even with just 1,000 people, because it's 1,000 people times 1,000 people. Now, imagine what it's like if you have 50 million followers. Your reach is just amplified. It is severely amplified. So you need to and the compound effect you can obtain with that is insane. Like the amount of followers you could gain, like the ability to gain, let's say if you have 50 million, to gain 2 million more followers is a lot easier for somebody who has, let's say, 500 followers now to gain 2 million. Like, yeah. So when you scroll through the accounts that people follow, you'll always see the same ones, which then leads to people going on these famous accounts and then following them too. And it's all about exposure, I guess, you know. Due to their vast exposure, their content is more likely to be trending and be shown in people's feeds also, which attracts more people again. However, if you only have a few followers, your network to attract more people is confined. So the barrier preventing you from getting access to the compound effect it's quite thick and robust, let's say, when your account is small. So let's take a look at a practical example. In the end, you have a comparatively small number of Instagrammers who are followed by a colossal number of people. Let's say Kylie Jenner, Selena Gomez, Ariana Grande. Each of these have about 2 million followers. 200 million followers. And I think the most followed account is Cristiano Ronaldo with something like 230 million. That is absurd. back when I was on Instagram, I think these people had around 100 million. Now like 200. It's insane. So these have around 200 million followers. And according to Statista, in July 2020, there was about 1 billion active Instagram users per month, that's a lot of people. That's like a seventh of the world population, I think. So about 1/5 of these people follow one account. 1/5 of 1 billion users follows like Kylie Jenner. That's insane. That is insane. That's the outcome of a Pareto distribution, and these accounts benefiting from the compound effect. So in conclusion, the Instagram is like a platform. It's kind of like reflects some dynamics of life and how some people build a kind of, let's say, I don't want to say wealth, but let's say number in followers, and a few people, it kind of like filters them out, and you have a very few people who are followed by the vast majority of people, and then the vast majority of people who are followed by close to nobody in comparison to these famous people. And that's due to the compound effect, because the more, the bigger your account becomes, the more access you have to other people who will then see your content, and it just accumulates and accumulates at a faster pace then, until you get like a significantly disproportionate distribution of the followers on Instagram. And the danger is that these people tap into an algorithm that rewards them for posting a certain content, and the content is often dissociated from reality. It's like portrays a life of perfection, and that is dangerous because people see this because they follow these people. Most people follow these people, so most people are being fed this type of content, and then you get this distorted view of reality, and not just for a few people, but for most people or a lot of people, and that's quite dangerous. So please leave a comment below whether you think there's anything I missed out on why these people have been able to accumulate such an enormous following on Instagram, or on whether you agree with my points on that it's like a Pareto distribution, the compound effect, and posting specific, distorted, I would say, content of reality. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, dating, Jungian psychology, and how to reduce suffering in life. Thank you for listening.